Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC or Credentialed Life Coach Collective, an ICF accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. All right, hello everyone. Last Craft of Coaching episode talked about getting out of the comparison trap of comparing yourself to other coaches. And today I wanted to talk about a related topic, but one that is its own that I know that trips up a lot of coaches, and it's the myth of the fully booked coach. So here's what I've noticed happen sometimes, and this might feel uncomfortably direct. If you're waiting until you are fully booked or you're doing coaching full time before you will call yourself a coach, you might be waiting forever. And I don't think it serves you. I think there's this invisible rule that a lot of coaches take on that sounds something like, well, I'll call myself a real coach when my roster is full, or when I'm consistently booked out, then I'll feel legitimate, or when I don't have to work for the clients to come to me, then I'll know I've made it. Or when I have a wait list, I'll truly be legit. And today's episode is going to release that pressure for you because it is absolutely untrue. It is just absolutely untrue. Okay? So let's get into the core misunderstanding that I think informs some of this. You're online. You see other coaches online. They talk about being fully booked out. They talk about wait lists. They talk about filling programs. But here's the thing. A full roster of clients or booking out a program, that's a business metric. Being a coach is a professional identity, and those are not the same thing. Speaking of things that people do, they wait to call themselves a coach, or they won't call themselves a coach if the way they primarily offer coaching is through their full-time salaried job. If they are in a leadership role, a management role, if they have to coach people in order to teach them, they'll often be like, well, but I'm not a coach, even though they're using all the coaching skills. We have people who come to the CLCC coach training program every single year who have no desire whatsoever to get into the business part of coaching. They're so clear about that. They come to CLCC because they manage people. They want to be better at managing people. We've had people come to CLCC who are parents who want to use coaching skills as a parallel, an adjunct, a form of parenting. I use coaching skills in how I parent my daughter. Let me tell you, it is really, really helpful when you have a preteen, that's what I have, to ask open-ended questions that have no agenda. To have that skill with a preteen when the emotions come up and everything's unfair, very, very helpful. So thinking that you have to be full-time coaching to call yourself a coach, or that you're not a coach if you are doing it in a organizational capacity, no. Okay? But again, this core misunderstanding that happens when you go online and you see all these people talking about filling their programs or things like that, that's a business metric. Being a coach is a professional identity, and they're not the same. A fully booked client roster reflects marketing, timing, positioning, how you positioned your offer, audience fit, the economic climate, dozens of external variables that you can't control. It reflects business development. It reflects networking. It reflects sales. It reflects visibility. But it does not say anything about that person's skill or presence or capacity to facilitate transformation. You are a coach even if you don't have a bunch of flashy business metrics. And I get it. It's really hard not to fuse the two. Coaches often start believing or thinking, if I were really good, I'd be fully booked. And that belief creates a lot of pressure. And when pressure is in the room, instead of respecting our internal intuition and capacity, when we get reactive, then it's like, oh God, I gotta overmarket. I should lower my rates. Or I'll say yes to any client, even if they're the wrong client for me. Or I'm going to work harder on my website. And then like your website is really pretty, but that's the polished front. And what you really want is the craft. What you really want is the transformation. So what I want to offer instead is that your identity as a coach is rooted in your commitment to the craft, not your current business, not your current utilization, not whether or not you're booked out. You become a coach when you are practicing coaching with integrity, skill development, professional standards, not when your calendar fills up. But let's talk more about why this story that fully booked equals you're a real coach is so sticky. Because it's real. It's really real for a lot of people. Well, first of all, it feels measurable. You can't measure the depth of transformation or insight that your client has undergone, not quantitatively. You can qualitatively. It's great to operationalize progress and say, okay, like here's how we're defining success, but you can't literally quantitatively measure it. But a full calendar, you're either booked or you aren't. So it feels measurable. That's why people turn to, oh, like if I'm fully booked, I'm a real coach. Look, see, my calendar's full. It's concrete. It's socially legible. If someone asks, how's your coaching going? It probably feels easier to answer to them, hey, I'm fully booked, than to say, I'm still building, right? Second, this fully booked means you're a real coach story often feels safer. Because when you are telling yourself, I'm not a real coach yet, then maybe you're also giving yourself a little room not to fully risk being seen as one. Yeah, because there are people who don't take the industry seriously. Or you might be in a W-2 salaried job where you don't want people to know that you've got a side hustle. Or maybe it feels safer to you not to fully own this coach identity. I'm working on it. I'm building towards it. I'm getting ready. I'm almost there. And while that can feel safe and safety can be comforting, it can also become avoidance mode where you don't look at doing what it takes to fully make the transition or fully own the identity of coach. And then third, I think people do this, if I'm fully booked, then I'm a real coach story, because tying your legitimacy to being fully booked creates a kind of conditional self-worth. And most of us are pretty practiced with conditional self-worth. I'll feel confident when. I'll claim myself as a coach when. When this happens, I can fully relax. This conditional self-worth. But that's not where confidence comes from. We can compare some of this to therapy. Imagine a therapist fresh out of graduate school. They might not have a wait list. They might not have a packed schedule. They might be working under supervision, but are they a therapist? Yeah. Because the identity of therapist is tied to the training, the standards, the scope, the practice, not calendar saturation, not your wait list, not did I hit 6 figures, not did I book out a program. So the same is true for coaches. You can be a coach with 1 client, 3 clients, no clients, and you're actively building, or working in a salaried job and, coaching as a modality that you employ through that job. Now, just to make sure that I'm not misunderstood on this, building a sustainable, financially viable practice matters. I am not in any way dismissing business growth. There is a reason why the CLCC program includes marketing training with the tuition for the program, and we don't have it as like a separate thing that you have to pay for. And there is a reason why I created the Coaching Blueprint digital marketing program. Head over to coachingblueprintprogram.com. You'll find it. But today I'm talking about how business growth is a separate skill set from coaching skill. And when you collapse them into one, you create distortion that does not serve you. You get reactive and start chasing clients or over-focusing on marketing tactics and measuring your worth by lead flow. And that stops you from stepping fully into a developmental identity that I think actually helps you to grow, because identity really precedes evidence. There's something about when you own, this is who I am, and you say it with your full chest, you can stand up a little bit taller. When you begin seeing yourself as a coach fully, not tentatively, you behave differently. I think you're going to step into that and notice that you can reflect more rigorously, track your patterns, refine your questions, study your impact, seek supervision, seek continuing education. But when you see yourself as not quite a coach yet, you're more likely to treat your sessions casually or undervalue feedback or approach the work as like temporary. And that really slows your development. There is a big difference between who I was when I was in that place. Because yeah, girl, I was in that place. I'm going to be so for real with you. I was in that place where coaching was just like a nice little side hustle. And there is a totally different way that I show up for my business when it was a little side hustle and I was kind of just hoping that like the lottery would strike and I'd suddenly be booked effortlessly with clients, or it would all just be like easy, versus the approach I take now, which is very strategic behind the scenes and going, okay, this is the thing. These are the things I need to learn and be able to do and iterate on and refine to have a coaching business. It slows your development to not fully own the fact that you are a coach, even if you don't have 6 figures and even if you don't have 1 million clients. You really got to get that the way you show up is being impacted by how you define yourself. Now, we got to touch on comparison. Like I said, in the other episode, the previous one to this, I talked about coaches going into comparison. And I get how hard it is. You're seeing these coaches online saying, I'm booked out for months, or testimonials or launches. But you got to remember, you're seeing the highlight reel of marketing, not the back end reality of revenue cycles or cancellations or retention rates or advertising spend or debt. My goodness, I have coaching colleagues who they intentionally do this. I don't have the stomach for it. I'm not judging that they do it, but I don't have the stomach for it. They go into $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of debt on Meta ads or Google ads or some kind of ad spend when they launch their programs. And they make it back when they launch their programs. They get these multiple 6-figure programs. And every single one of them, without exception, has had a bad launch. Without exception. Which means that, yes, while you see the highlight reel of the fact that they've had these big launches, and yes, many times, most of the time, these are successful launches. How would you feel if you had one launch that didn't go well? Like I said, I don't have the stomach for it at this point in my business. Maybe I will some other year, but I have never once, to grow my business, spent $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on ads. I just don't. And I've managed to have a multiple 6-figure business without doing that. And great. There are other people who would look at me and they'd look at how I market and they go, Kate, I don't have the stomach for what you do. It's too slow, or it doesn't work, or it requires too many ads. Like, I don't even know what they'd say. But all I'm saying is, when you see the highlight reel of marketing and you don't know the back end of what their revenue cycles are like, or retention, or what it actually costs to generate all that money, you don't realize that a full program does not always mean that they've done it sustainably. Booked does not always mean that they were profitable. Visibility does not always mean that they are emotionally stable. And as I said in the comparisons episode, this was shocking to me the first time I heard it. It's no longer shocking to me. There are a lot of coaches out there that lie about the money they make, or how booked they are, or their programs. I know. Bananas. So if your metric of legitimacy is external visibility, you are essentially handing your identity and your power to algorithms and timing, and that's so unstable. It's unstable ground. So let's stop moving into this. What is it you need to do right now to understand and really get behind? Like, the sky is blue, water is wet, I need oxygen to survive. These are realities, and here are some other realities. Growth takes time. My reputation, my skill, my relationships will compound over time. Because expecting, especially early on, a fully booked roster in the earliest phases of your coaching is like expecting a first-year restaurant to have a 10-year reputation. So this is the place where you need to accept that growth takes time. Growth takes time. Growth takes time. Okay? Next, separate the skill metrics from the business metrics. Skill metrics are things like depth of your presence, the quality of your questions, how well you hold silence or ambiguity in a session, your capacity to navigate and support client emotion. Business metrics are things like lead flow, conversion rate, retention, revenue, how full your calendar is. Yes, track both, but don't conflate them and don't confuse them. They're different skill sets. CLCC actually teaches marketing separate from the craft of coaching. And the design behind the CLCC program, because we actually put marketing later in the program, and the purpose of that is that we treat our program like a professional mastermind where you're not only learning the coaching skill set, but you're also engaging in self-reflection and working on your own personal areas of self-doubt. I lack confidence, I'm afraid, stuff like that. Because we want you to build those skills internally so that when you're out there marketing yourself, you can go, oh, yeah, I remember, and I've done this work before of comparisons, of self-doubt, of what do I do when like the fear, the overwhelm is just really kicking up in my system. We want you to be prepared to meet the moment. The next thing I would suggest to move out of this myth of what constitutes a real coach is to really build identity through repetition. Introduce yourself as a coach. Own it. Own the language. Yeah, I'm a life coach. Practice saying that consistently. Engage in how do I show up and say, yes, I'm a coach. I'm a coach. I'm a coach. I'm a coach. Hell yeah, I'm a life coach. Because your identity will stabilize through use. You won't become a coach because you're fully booked. You'll become fully booked because over time you're developing the skills and the clarity and the consistency, and people refer you out and people really like what you're up to. Notice that order. Skill that leads to trust, that leads to growth in clients, that leads to a volume of clients. Not volume equals legitimacy. And if you invert that order and you think that volume equals legitimacy, then you're going to be chasing validation, which is exhausting. So here's the invitation. Okay? Release the timeline. Release the comparison. Release the conditional. When this happens, then I will be. And you're like, well, how, Kate? How? I talked about that in this episode. I talked about it also in the comparisons episode. You got to interrupt the spiral. So definitely check out that comparisons episode if you missed it. You got to release the timeline, the comparisons, and the conditional metrics. You are allowed to be in a process. You are allowed to be building and growing publicly. And you are allowed to say, I am a coach, even if your calendar has white space, even if you're not technically taking on one-on-one clients and the way you coach is through an organization. So if this conversation stirred something for you, especially if you've been quietly withholding that title from yourself, take this as permission to step forward. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be performative, but just stand up straight, square your shoulders, and say it with your full chest. Hell yeah, I'm a life coach. Because you don't need to be fully booked to be real. You just need to be committed. And commitment is something that you can choose right here, right now. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you. And again, thanks for listening.